Welcome back to We Watch Movie. I'm Mike. He's Jay.
We're
back on that script shit.
Fuck.
So if you're a follower of our channel, which why are you? We do script reviews sometimes.
You know, I've been wearing that sub box, and somebody's like, look at this, like, why am I still subscribed to these fucking douche holes?
Yeah, so
fuck stick.
Jay can't read, but I read it myself, and then I read it to him. It was like Rocky and Adrian and
What's
Rocky
that
II.
I hear? Fuck you.
So
I read some.
There was a script for, and by the way, first and foremost, I'll probably release that first. I forgot to release our Alien Prometheus review, or Prometheus review, so that'll be up, and then this will come out afterwards. But Prometheus, all the problems that were with Prometheus, all the confusion and shit, a lot of that shit gets doled out in this script that was written before the Prometheus script. Now, Ridley Scott went through and he changed a whole bunch of shit, and he changed what we know as Prometheus and Covenant. But there was a script called Alien Engineer, which makes way more sense.
Yeah, it was about aliens that worked on cars and shit. The daily life of Valvoline.
But there was a script that they had originally that they were going to go with, and it explains some things a little bit further, and it actually takes Alien Covenant and sucks it inside of Prometheus.
She's gone from suck to blow.
So we'll do our best to not give away Covenant spoilers while talking about this script.
Well, I don't want to, yeah.
But just a warning, I mean, if you're really scared and you haven't seen Covenant yet, probably don't watch this, because I don't want to ruin anything for you, just in case we slip up. But we'll try to be vague about it. But Covenant is basically enraptured in this script a little bit, so...
Well, engineers, the main first thing you're going to notice when you start reading engineers...
I'm gay.
Is that you're gay, and you've got to go with that in life sometimes. Engineers, the main thing you're going to notice about the engineer script is that it is very classical aliens. And this was before, you know, with Prometheus is that Ridley Scott got scared of the idea of doing Alien again. I guess he got like turned off on the idea that he wants to go retread ground that he's already done before. But in this script, it's more of the Alien type feel that you probably expected when Prometheus was announced that it was going to come out and directed by Ridley Scott, and you saw everything. And that's the first thing I noticed. Now, when the aliens come into play in this script, in this film, that would have been, it's more towards the end of the script, which is fine, but they're exactly like the aliens. I mean, there's the face huggers that burst on the chest, and then they get bigger, and then they tell two friends, and then they tell two friends, and it just keeps going. And then when the aliens are running around trying to fuck shit up, it's like old school Alien. You're like, yeah!
Whereas in Prometheus, the only alien thing that you actually fully got was you got a face hugger that came out of Numi Rapace's belly in the pod.
Yeah.
But in this one, that whole thing is different. Like, when the aliens... In Prometheus, the alien doesn't actually, and it's a neomorph. It doesn't show up until the very last scene.
Fancy neomorphs.
They're fucking cool.
There's xenomorphs and they're neomorphs, and then there's like Morphin Power Rangers.
But from the start, like, you get Watts and Holloway, which a couple of the names have been changed.
Yeah. Their personality's a little different too.
Watts is the girl and Holloway is the guy, and Holloway is a lot more likable in the engineer script than he was in the Prometheus
and he's
script.
older.
Yeah. So the same story. They're searching. They're geologists or whatever, and they're searching for stuff, and they find the map just like they do in the other one. But in this, the main thing differently they do with that part of the story, it's really, really interesting actually, is that what they've discovered is that every so many thousands of years, a huge change in humanity happens. So what they realized was every few thousand years, these engineers or whatever they are interfere with worldly presences, and they change stuff, like, you know,
genetic, like DNA is changed or something gets added every few thousands of years, or even wiped out completely.
Right, and then at one point it just stopped. It's
like those engineers couldn't get it the fuck right. They come in as like, wipe the petri dish. It's like, you've done bad. The new manager comes in, he's like, look, you're starting over. You're starting over. He's like, well, fuck. I guess I got to do it again. Exactly. I got to kill somebody again, and then their DNA, because that's the very beginning of the script. It starts out similar to Prometheus with the, you know, three big engineer bald dudes walking up and doing their, you know, monk thing, and then the one guy injects some shit with that black stuff or smells it or whatever, and then he gets broken down his DNA, and then like a little bug comes and like bites the neck of a cave woman that comes out at the bottom of a mountain.
She worked for Geico.
Yeah, she did. And she that's how they introduced the new DNA into humanity, that, you know, kind of doing that, and then it takes place immediately following that. Holloway and Shaw, I keep wanting to call her Shaw. Yeah. Holloway, whatever it was, Watts are under the water, and they find a monolith, which is, that's a harken back to 2001 Space Odyssey when they find this giant monolith under the water and it's got all this writing and shit on it.
Under the sea.
That's better. Everything's better.
But they have to talk Wayland Corp into this. So in this one, they go to Guy Pearce's character, Old Man Wayland.
Pretty much the same though.
Yeah, and Vickers is there, and they talk him into this, and
well, one of the main differences also
he funds their expedition.
Wayland's motivations in this is not about extending his life; it's about just getting the technology. Like, see, he was a lot more cutthroat. It felt like in this script, like, you know, you can have the discoveries and shit, and that's great, but I just want the technology, and me's gonna have it. I need to make a new microwave.
I was gonna put it in. I'm gonna put that terraformer in.
I'm gonna find every new technology, and I'm gonna make a new toaster strudel and make billions. But that's what he wants. I mean, that's his main motivation for funding the trip, which, you know, honestly,
makes sense.
That kind of makes more sense. Yeah. Even though what they did with Prometheus, with him being an old man and like afraid of mortality, it kind of plays into the whole idea of gods and humanity and mortality and David and all that stuff is played in better in Prometheus, the way that Ridley Scott kind of shook that out. But in this, it just makes more clear-cut sense.
Yeah, it does. And so what he really wants to do is he says, I'll fund your all's expedition, but if you find any technology at all, it's fucking mine.
Don't you fucking renege on that, renege. Not
Don't you ever fuck me, Tony. You got your Cuban beans and you got your Cuban nachos and you put the cheese on the fucking nachos. But fuck that was. I was cooking for my family for my dinner last night, and that's literally what I was doing. I was talking to my daughter. I was like, you put your fucking chicken on your nachos.
You talking to
I didn't say fucking. I was like, then you put the cheese on the nachos. You got chicken nachos.
Did you get a muscle like tea and like sit there? He's like, let me tell you something.
Stir the sauce. You got to stir the sauce.
It's like that fucking Joe. He's gonna pay me money.
There's a helicopter hovering over me when I go to make the pickup. So they go over there, and basically in Prometheus, what they did is that Wayland's old ass was creeping around the ship in the background. And
dirty old Hyperman.
In this one, they get up in space or whatever, and what Vickers is actually hiding in this script is a fucking team of the guys from Aliens, basically.
I know.
She's got a secret room where she's hiding an army force, like these soldiers, and when shit starts to go cray-cray in the pyramids, she goes and pulls them out, and that's the big secret.
I mean, that's what you gotta have in life when you have a spaceship in the middle of nowhere. You've gotta have a secret room with secret Marines.
But it's cool because, like you said, that adds the aliens feel to it.
But the problem with, you know, the whole alien aspect of this script, there's nothing wrong with it. I loved it. I thought that was badass, and I thought it was cooler to go see or to read something like that than what could have been. And when we mentioned Covenant, there's a lot. I mean, we're not going to say exactly, but there's a lot more going on in Covenant that matches up with this script. But it's the thing about aliens or the xenomorphs is that you got to either go all in with them or you got to go like kind of just go out like early, because it's towards the end that the shit really starts breaking down and it really starts coming out. Like in Alien 1, it was early on. In Aliens, it was early on, and it was just like throughout the entire film. This one sets it up, which is nice. I like how they set up the story, and it doesn't really start happening, the craziness until towards the end. And I mean, it's not a bad thing, but I'm just, again, it's one of those things like you wait so long for that to come out, and it's like the last 30 minutes of the movie, it's like, oh, boom, there it all is.
When you read the script, you can consciously see Ridley Scott read the script and decided, well, the aliens still don't come up for a little while.
For a long time,
so what I want to do is, I just want to make this a non-aliens film. And you could see him thinking that, and he's like, I'm going to split this basically into 2 movies. Well, fuck, it was called Alien Engineers. And maybe he made the smart, conscious decision. It's actually smart if you think about it, because if the film's called Aliens, but in this script even, the aliens don't show up till late, he maybe didn't want people thinking it was an aliens movie and being disappointed. So in his mind, he made Prometheus instead. So a lot of the beats are the exact same. They go on the ship, they introduce the crew, they go up there, they find basically the same shit. The snake that eats the guy's suit's still there.
He's still there. That's snake.
Yeah, a lot of the shit is the exact same. I mean, a lot of it is, but there's huge differences. One of the huge differences is they clearly say these are pyramids they found, and what they do is they say, basically, you know, the whole theory that the pyramids in Egypt were built by aliens. They dropped off that stuff to us instead of us building.
They brought big cranes in. They had to get Ryder to help them.
Basically, that's what they did here, and it was the engineers who dropped those pyramids, which is fucking cool.
I thought that was cool.
They also dropped these, but what happened was they created us, and much like the original script, they created us, and every few whatever years they decided to wipe out the race. So they built these fucking alien pods to wipe out our race again, just like in the other movie. And it went wrong, and all the engineers got eaten up with that fucking crab shit.
That fungus.
Yeah, they all got eaten up with it. One of the main differences here, though, is that in the original, in Prometheus, Holloway, David's the one who puts the drop in his drink, and he puts that shit in his system, and then he gives it to Noomi Rapace's character. In this, Holloway falls down a fucking shaft, And what you find out is that an actual facehugger got a hold of him, impregnated his ass, and he just had PTSD, so he'd forgotten it even happened. They're in the middle of having sex.
I guess you could think about that. Like if you got raped in the shower, you're gonna try to forget that.
He had a concussion.
Like, go to a happy place like a Dumb and Dumber. He's like Seabass.
He had a concussion, but in the middle of the sex scene between him and Watts, he literally has an alien scene where the fucking thing bursts out of his chest, and then it gets loose in the ship. And then you have a whole alien sub-story happening in the ship where these soldiers are chasing these aliens around and people are dying, and it's badass. There's one scene where a dude gets sucked into a shaft and his bones all crumple. Fucking cool.
Like I said, there's a lot of cool action sequences that's going on in this, and again, it's reminiscent of an Alien. It felt more like an Aliens movie. Like that's the Prometheus is always going to be its own special place in the Alien franchise, but again, is it an Alien movie? It is, but it's not. It just felt more philosophical than an Alien movie. This is really more of an action-oriented Alien story. I mean, there is philosophical elements to it, which is cool, but it's more straight cut to the point rather than what Prometheus did. Prometheus was like, I'm not going to take the highway. I'm going to take the exit and go to the scenic route. Yeah. This was like straight fucking 75 miles an hour, 85 miles an hour down the highway.
And David's
the motorway in Europe.
David's the big change in the script. And this is where, if you guys haven't seen Covenant, I'm going to try not to give any spoilers, but if you really are afraid of it, just go ahead and click off. I understand.
Don't leave!
But basically, David, in the original Prometheus script, you know what his character was. It was confusing, and Waylon was the one who was really seeking out the engineers because he wanted to find out about life. In this one, David becomes enraptured with the thought of the engineers. He's programmed to do all this shit, and basically he goes, instead of what happens in Covenant, David goes rogue in this movie.
Early on.
I
mean, you can already tell clear cut he was the bad guy. Like, I mean, that's not even up for debate. Like in the first, when Prometheus, you were kind of like, you know, maybe he's got some sinister motives, but is he just being told to do this? And he might be innocent in the fact that he's just an android and doesn't know any better. But in this, it's clear cut he's a fucking
They make him a fucking Terminator.
Yeah.
But it's badass because he can move and run and do all this shit. Like the way that they explain it's really cool. Like the way he runs and shit's freaky fucking fast, like Jimmy John's.
You know, do your vitamins and you'll fucking be fine.
But you almost have that Terminator/Covenant vibe in this with David because Holloway realizes what's happened. David decides he holds her down and puts a face hugger on her, and then you have the same scene.
Fucking rapist shit.
Yeah.
You're gonna take it,
dude. But the dialogue is so badass. Like it gets into like the Bible and shit like that when he talks about how God wiped the planet.
That's the one thing. Yeah, but they kept doing that a lot. Like the whole biblical. It was cool, but it was overdone sometimes. It was like, okay, we get it. You're gonna quote the whole fucking passage of Job. That's great.
I liked it.
It was good. I'm just saying, can we just not do it anymore? Can you quote me something else? Like, can you quote me, I don't know, Rocky or something?
But he's fucking creepy. Like he's like when you find out he's bad, he's like, humans are so stupid. And she goes to run, and he turns his head. He's like, and slow. And then he's like, and he runs. He gets her, puts a face hugger on her, and then we go back to Prometheus again. Same scene happens. She goes to the med pod. You get that gnarly fucking scene. Only this time, instead of the face hugger or whatever it was being inside of her, it's a fucking alien. Like it's a neomorph. Yeah. I think the way I read it is that it's a fucking alien, and that alien does something cool in this I haven't seen in any of the other ones. It projects images in its fucking face.
I know it's got memory, but okay. I want to go back to David really quick.
David.
The thing about David is David. Again, we're not trying to give anything away of what happened in Covenant, but in Covenant, it's a lot. You can see a lot more. He emerges as a really cool ass villain. In this one, like I said, they do it early in this. They make sure that you understand he has a distaste for humans early. Yeah. And it's not even, it's at the very beginning of the script though, where they're walking down the hallway and he has no like empathy or sympathy for anything. And it just, the way I read it is they make jokes with him, kind of like in the original Prometheus, but instead of that one guy just being a douchehead to him, he's just being funny and just trying to, play with him. And he doesn't get it at all. Like he was like, I'm not programmed for this and that. It just seemed a lot more cold. And David is also very reminiscent in this script of what Ash was in Alien 1. But he's better than Ash. Like he's smarter than Ash was. So I don't really, I mean, they took elements of David. You're right. Maybe they took elements of David from this and put it in Covenant.
I think they for sure did, man. Especially like him going.
Because that might have been smart by Ridley Scott. He was like, instead of putting all my eggs in one basket and just shooting my load in your face and making sure you swallow it.
Yeah.
In the first one, he's like, I'll stretch it out over 2 movies and have him grow.
Also, he may have not have known when they wrote this script that Michael Fassbender, the fucking powerhouse that he is, was going to sign on to do it.
Yeah.
Once Fassbender signed on to do this, he might have been like, I want to take that and I want to put it in another movie too. I want to stretch bet you.
Yeah, I don't know anybody else that could have played that part better. When I was reading it as David, like I was thinking of Fassbender.
And Fassbender makes Covenant. I mean, he makes that
that's
movie work.
So
yeah, I don't think if they'd gone with this script, we would have gotten Covenant. We would have gotten a totally different movie. But there's other changes too, like what happens. For one, the aliens are full force on the ship, like we talked about, killing people, doing their badass shit. Now in this one, they call the original ship that you saw in the original Alien, the one they find on the engineer's planet, they call it the Juggernaut. Now when David wakes up the engineer, it's not Weyland obsessed and like in awe, it's David. Like he wants to know like what your shit is, and it's fucking badass.
Weyland's not even on the ship.
Right. It's fucking badass what David does in one scene, because they bring Vickers down because she apparently, if she tells him to do something, he has to do it because he's programmed that way. But he's been sneaking off on this Juggernaut ship, and he's learned how the engineers speak, and he's learned all their shit, and by doing that, he's adopted a way to not have to listen to what we say anymore. So he goes full on rogue, and there's a badass scene. You remember the scene, one thing Prometheus doesn't explain that this script does, is the engineer, when he rips Weyland's head off, he says something, and you never fucking find out what it is, and it drives you fucking crazy. David says it in this. He's like, you killed me. I guess by waking me up, the engineer was like, you all killed us.
It makes sense, because if they were in hyper or cryo sleep and they were supposed to be, making sure they got away, if you open it up and you let them out, like you did kill him.
Yeah.
So no wonder he's fucking pissed. It's like, I was sleeping, I had a good dream going, and you fucking woke me up, and now I'm gonna die. So thank you very much, and go have a nice day.
So he rips off David's head, and then the Juggernaut goes. The engineer takes the Juggernaut and is taking it away. And then we go back through the whole thing where we have to destroy that ship or it's going to blow up Earth. So in this one, they do something different, and I don't like this. They take the ship and they attack the Juggernaut, just like they did in Prometheus. But in this one, Watts gets in an escape pod. After the ships have collided, somehow they're still like intact.
No, they did that in the Prometheus with Vickers. She got into an escape pod too.
Right, but in this one, it's her that does it. Vickers is already dead. Vickers gets killed by the Pfeiffer's character, or whatever it is, whatever his name was, and she gets an escape pod. The ships crash or whatever, but then the engineer that's driving the Juggernaut has an alien burst out of his chest, and they call it an ultramorph. I haven't heard that yet. It's a big fucking alien.
It's the ultra rare card you can only get after you open 6 packages.
It's the newest thing in shoewear.
He's like, maybe you'll get it or maybe you won't. You gotta open up 6 packages.
He bursts into an ultramorph, and then they both land, and this ultramorph starts chasing around Watts, much like the engineer does in this one. So she gets this badass saw and has this Ripley moment. She kills it. And then the next thing you know, David's talking to her. He's like, put me back together. And she's like, fuck you, asshole. She does put him back together, but she refuses to like go forth with his plans. They're playing chess in a scene, and it's this badass dialogue between the two of them. And the next thing you know, he's like, but what will happen next, or something like that. I can't remember exactly what he said, but these pyramids shoot out this fucking light, and the script is like, it's just the beginning. So I don't know where they were going to go.
I think the lights maybe, to me, what they read like was they were a beacon. Like they sent a beacon off that either something had been disturbed, and letting the other engineers know on their home planet that this shit has fucking hit the fan, hit critical level blue. We've got to get Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, in on this. That's what I think it was. It was a signal to the rest of the engineers to come to the planet to investigate what's happened, or maybe there was a backup plan, a contingency for this, because they're engineers, they're smart as shit. They've got to have backup plans. They knew if this ever happened, they had to have a backup plan.
And that also explains what people call a plot hole in Covenant. Is then this was in a prequel, like one of those little shorts they released before Covenant, so it's not a total Covenant spoiler. But in that scene, what a lot of people were complaining about is that it wasn't explained well. David takes the ship with Watts, and they go to the engineer's planet in the Juggernaut. And when they pull in, all the engineers come into this big pit, and they're all cheering and stuff. And people were complaining. They were like, because that happened in the movie, and then he drops the bombs.
That's not really a plot. I didn't understand why they were doing it.
Yeah, people were complaining. They're like, this superior race is dumb enough to go and stand underneath this ship and applaud.
It was a fucking alien. It was their crap that had been missing for decades.
And that's what this thing explains. And then David drops the bomb on him.
I never got that. Like, how is that a plot hole? Like, the fact that they're stupid enough to go in. And I read somewhere about that. Like, Covenant, like, a lot of them make dumb mistakes. Okay, I can get what you're talking about, the characters.
It's a horror movie.
But then at the same time, they're an advanced race, and they would just go. I was like, it's a fucking alien spacecraft that it was their spacecraft that they had not seen. It's like a returning hero. Yeah. And they're like, oh yeah, giving him some applause, giving him some love, and then we get some Black Duty shit in our face. We didn't know. It's been sabotaged. But that's why they did it. So just because they're an advanced alien civilization doesn't mean that they don't have parades and hero welcome for their returning, whatever. So that made no, like, what people bitching about that makes no sense.
The only part of that I do get and understand is the fact that, like, this is a whole planet, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, you wiped out an entire race. Like, an entire race was just chilling in the port.
I don't know, not the whole race. I mean, I think they showcased that it went from that point on, and maybe it's spread out over the planet, because there was a lot of fucking black duty. that was a black duty miss.
That's that fucking bad sushi.
That shit was bad. And who knows? We don't even know, because there could be pockets of survivors of engineers somewhere on the planet. And they could have dug holes and like hung out there for a while. Who knows?
And when I won't say that because that's a Covenant spoiler. But anyway, so yeah, that's the script, and ultimately, at the end of the day, this script for me, it does describe, there's a lot of scenes in Prometheus that happen and you go, well, that was never fully explained. Yeah. There's parts of this script that explain it, and you can see that to make Covenant a movie, Ridley Scott had to take from my body. He had to take from this script and make that work. So ultimately, it's like a bad edit. Like when you try to edit something and it's a butterfly effect, And so I think that's what happened with some of the stuff in Prometheus.
If you can go back in time, why can't you save me?
Save Ashton. But at the end of the day, I still am glad that it happened the way it happened, because I would much rather have Prometheus, which I like for its far-reaching themes, and Covenant, which I like for its horror. I'd rather have both those movies than just one.
What's your rating on them?
For the script, I thought the script was good. I thought it was a solid, 8 out of 10 or whatever.
I was going to give it an 8 too. Again, I think this is, again, it's one of those situations that Ridley Scott read it, and he probably did like the script a lot, because he does use elements of it that is stretched out amongst 2 movies, but he probably looked at it and he's like, I can take what you've done here and stretch it and make it more of a growing or evolving story, rather than just one time where I blow my load and everybody's like, oh, that's it, we can't go any further than this, now I gotta do this whole other thing. So he took the elements of David and the elements of the alien, the actual origin story of him, and used the philosophical tones that they sometimes presented in the original script, and put more of that focus on Prometheus. And then when Covenant comes out, all the action stuff and all the crazy horror stuff that was going on in the script is put in that film. Yeah. So he stretched it out, and I'm with you. I do prefer the more changing ways of David going from Prometheus into Covenant and what he ultimately becomes, because in this one it's quick. I mean, it's immediate. He's already fucking Lord Zed and Rita's there, so it's already there. So I mean, yeah, I get why, but it's still a fun ass script, and it was, if it had come out and it had been just alien engineers, I think it would have put some Neosporin on the butthurt people that were out there that were about Prometheus, because they were like, well, he's just Prometheus, it would have solved a lot of confusion that Prometheus presented. I mean, it would have just been alien, and people would be like, I get it, and they would have watched it and been familiar territory. But in a way, I still like what they're doing, with Prometheus and Covenant, and wherever that's going to go from then on.
And at the end of the day, I think it was the right decision too, because you're right. Like, at first you think that, you're like, well, people wouldn't have been pissed about Prometheus because it would have had aliens in it. But when you go back and you look at it, if they named that movie Alien Engineers and then did this script, I think people would be even more pissed because the aliens still don't come out and they're an afterthought.
Kind of like, maybe people like they were having that salty shit in their mouth from Alien Resurrection, and then you get Alien Engineers. Yeah. Even though it would be directed by Ridley Scott, it just, because you got Alien, then you got Aliens, and then you got Alien 3, and whatever. But Alien Resurrection, when you start having that subtitle to your movie, you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to be into this one. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, 8.0 for both of us for the script. So it's a good checkout if you're an Alien fan.
And that's the question of the day, based on if you've read the script or based on what we told you, would you guys have rather have had them integrate this script and make Alien Engineers, or are you happy that we have Prometheus and Covenant, even with a few tiny weird cuts there? So
there's still things there's still things in that script though that I think that Ridley Scott, that we haven't seen yet, put on film, and I think he probably is saving some of that stuff for like maybe a third entry.
Yeah. Because if this script has happened, the things that happened in Covenant couldn't have happened.
No, I know. And so if you read this script, you'll see everything that we're talking about that connects Prometheus to Covenant. And then there's some things that, again, it's not been filmed yet. I think that there's things he's saving for maybe a third entrance. So, maybe the pyramid shooting that light on. Who the fuck knows? Maybe we'll get something.
And that's my favorite part about the script, is the a little bit more explanation to the engineers and the pyramid shit.
With the pyramid with the lights coming off, it should have been Led Zeppelin. This is what we told you about. It's rock and roll, bro.
You were born in the darkness. I was molded. That's backwards, but whatever. We love your fucking faces, and if you're new to the channel, click that subscribe button and get some goddamn alien neomorphs up in you.
We watched a movie. Yeah. We watched a movie. We watched it. We watched a movie. Yeah. You know what? We did a review. We watched movie.